I'm going to talk about the train too, and let me start off with a certain with a premise. Premise number one: we support the build, build, build. And we take our hats off for the President for this initiative. It's long overdue. Let's give a big hand for the build, build, build. We have been the laggard in infrastructure in the CN region, and finally somebody has the guts to do it. And in fact, we've always been, CILA, the local chambers here have always been supportive of infrastructure development. It was exactly here in this place, Mimosa, where we signed the first partnership for better infrastructure. That was when Henry was still with the Reed Foundation. And that became the impetus for the convergence of the DOT, DPWH development project, which was the inspiration now for the convergence between DTI and DOTR and DPWH convergence. So when it comes to the build, 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 what we're saying is do it now, do it right, do 30. So do. We support that. And we also support the train, the tax reform for acceleration. It is a good idea for countries to continuously review and reform their tax measures to make sure that they are competitive, that they support growth in the economy. In fact, if we do the build, build, build and the train to right, I think it could solve a lot of the factors that have made the Philippines uncompetitive. This came from the World Economic Forum, and it says here, inefficient government bureaucracy, inadequate infrastructure, corruption, tax regulation, tax rate, policy. If you take a look at those first few factors, if we do our tax reform right, make it simple, make it easier to comply with, and also do the infrastructure, we solve the major reasons why we're a laggard in competitiveness. Okay, so we realize that the government has to spend for the build, build, build project, because if you take a look at it, it's unprecedented. Marcos did 3.2% of GDP. Aquino, Estrada, Ramos, they were all doing 2.2. Aquino, Ninoy was doing 2.9. Right now, the budget is 5.4, unprecedented. In fact, absorptive capacity now has become the issue. And so we know that we need to spend money here. Yes, we realize that. And we also support Duterte's vow to create more jobs. Inclusiveness, of course, is very important in all economy if we want to be sustainable. Raising taxes, however, from our point of view, if you're talking about locators who are very mobile, who are also located in other countries, might be like the train to running over the goose that lays the golden eggs. Okay? Now let me explain why. Because a lot of people are saying no. People will stay here even if we raise the taxes. There are a lot of things they like about the Philippines. Yeah, true. There are a lot of things going for the Philippines. However, we believe that increasing the tax burdens of our foreign investors will result to capital flight, because we are not the only game in town. And we have statistics to show that, leading to unemployment, which we don't want, and which this administration does not want, and lesser collection for the government, and there goes our infrastructure. So this is a vicious cycle. Now, some people say, no, that's not true. But no, we're not that hot right now. If you take a look at the competitiveness index, we're still number 56 out of 100. So we're not, when all our neighbors are ahead, Vietnam is ahead of us. Thank God we're very close to Vietnam. Had it not been for the OFW remittances, maybe economically we'd be really down there. And if you take a look at the foreign direct investment, we're looking at the data from 2011 to 2016. We only have about 4% of the pie. Singapore has 52%, Indonesia has about 16%, Thailand 7%, Malaysia 10%, Vietnam 8%. We have 4%. It's getting bigger, but so is their share, okay? And if you take a look at the only guys who have less FDI than us would be Myanmar, Cambodia, Laos, and Brunei. But if you take a look at their population, which is only a fraction of our population, if you talk about per capita foreign direct investment, we are really, really at the bottom. Okay? So, and to say that, hey, incentives really don't count because we are such an attractive country, let's have a reality check. This is from the World Economic Forum on what stage is our country's economy in. The first stage, of course, if you're a factor-driven, if you're a source of cheap raw materials and all of this. The second stage is if you're efficiency-driven. So the factory model has kicked in. And the third stage is if you're an innovation-driven economy. Singapore has made that leap. It's way ahead. It's about... Two Clark is equivalent to one Singapore, a small country with 5 million people. They are now in stage 3. They're an innovation-driven economy. Now, Malaysia is between being an efficiency-driven and an innovation-driven economy. So it's getting there. Indonesia and Thailand are firmly planted as efficiency-driven. We, on the other hand, the Philippines, together with Brunei and Vietnam, are still in the transition stage 1 to 2, which means that cost matters. Like, people don't mind paying higher wages in Singapore because, hey, it's Singapore. It's an innovation country. Now, however, in our case, cost and ease of doing business are the main determinants of investment decisions. So, again, this is where we are. We are still between the factor-driven and efficiency-driven economy. Now, let's take a look at various factors. Minimum wage, out of 10, we are number 8. We have the highest. Okay? Singapore and Brunei, they don't have a minimum wage requirement. In fact, we're caught in the middle income trap. We are not that cheap, but we're not that premier. And when it comes to power, we're the most powerful country because our power rates are the highest in the region. Much, much higher than our neighbors. Infrastructure, we don't have figures on Myanmar in the World Economic Forum, so we're number 7 out of 9. Again, the only countries behind us are Laos and Cambodia. Institutional support, we're number 8. Cambodia is the only one behind us. Corporate income tax, we're way up there. We have the highest CIT. Well, it's a good thing that we want to slowly reduce our CIT to 25. However, if you look at the CIT historically of all the countries, there we are on top. Everybody else, a few countries are still, Indonesia is 25. Maybe by the time we hit 25, everybody's on the 20. Singapore is now as low as 17. 17. I don't know why we like to play catch up when we can take a leap forward, okay? And when income tax holiday, well, I'd like to think we did some, by the way, a lot of these figures I'm showing you are from the Ernst & Young study of ASEAN incentives. We have the shortest maximum income tax holidays. Some even have lifetime, which we'll see later. So these are the ASEAN incentives in a nutshell. Our incentives are not too hot right now. And our competitiveness, of course, is not really that hot also. Okay, let's take a look at Singapore. I'll just flash through this quickly. Take a look at Singapore. A lot of their incentives now are focused on R&D, regional headquarters, finance, treasury center, global theater program. This small country wants to be the center of the ASEAN region. They, they're giving very attractive incentives. Concessionary tax rates of 5% CIT. Well, in our case, I think we've managed to drive away one of the few regional headquarters company here from our future outlook. Well, they always review their tax system. They want it to be broad-based, progressive, pro-growth, and competitive. Because tax incentives are their tools for long-term economic success. And they have been very successful so far. Indonesia, okay, they give tax allowances, benefits. They even get CIT reduction or exemption. Take note, exemption. For 5 to 15 years and in up to 20 years in special cases. If they find a company they like, they go all out. What's the outlook? Well, they want to achieve the AEC 2015 goals right away, and their tax incentives place emphasis on providing incentives for labor, domestic component, investments, and export. Okay, so Thailand, okay, it's been doing a lot of better. We have exemption for CIT for a long time, 15 years tax exemption. R&D, of course, is even given emphasis. For those of you who are in the BPO industry, you are well aware that a lot of our cities here that used to be in the Tolon's top 100 destinations have been downgraded. Like Manila from number 2 is number 4 now because of the lack of innovation. We do not have right now the infrastructure for innovation. And that's why a lot of our neighbors are really giving a lot of incentives for R&D. Okay. They want to give a lot of additional incentives are in the works, more BOI sectors. They're even offering area-based incentives to have more balanced growth within the country. And they're going for Thailand 4 to be the hub of trade and investment in Southeast Asia. So everybody wants to be a hub. Malaysia, okay. Double deduction for R&D. Okay, when you incentives 10 years at least, and there are even concession rates of 0% depending on the level of criteria. Okay. Future outlook. Malaysia wants to achieve developed nation status by 2020. We like to be 2030, so we're 10 years behind them already. So let's support Richard Mills so that we become a first world by 2030 or even earlier. Okay. Vietnam, okay. They have their tax holidays comes with a plus 8 years, plus 8 years, depending on how you perform. So, and some projects have even exemption for life. Okay, so tax. Okay, they are one of the world's fastest growing economy, and they're being viewed as a last frontier for investment. They're called a hot spot for foreign investors. So don't be surprised to wake up one of these days and this guy is overtaking, taking the lead when it comes to FDI. Philippines, well, this was the report by Ernst & Young before, but now a lot of these incentives are being looked with, let me use a Tagalog term, sinusumbat. People are being told that, hey, you owe us, you've been abusing, siniswerte kayo, it's been a long time. No. Well, we invited these people here. So at the time this report was written, they'd say we have challenges in implementing the 2017 IPP. But right now, for a lot of locators who are still worried about the uncertainty regarding the train 2, it's like it feels like it's the train to Busan, okay, for them. So now I think that if we want to raise more money, I think the elephant in the room is not because of the incentives, as was pointed out by Dr. Basilio. The incentives did not really cost the government that much. In fact, I think the elephant in the room is our collection efficiency. And if you take a look at the figures, you'll notice that tax rate is inversely proportional to collection efficiency. The higher the tax rate, the lower the collection efficiency. And if you ask businessmen, if we are given like 15% tax rate, everybody will just pay it. It's a lot simpler than trying to work around it, okay? So, and right now, a lot of this economic development have been coming from the economic zones, the IPAs. As 84% of foreign direct investment can be attributed to the economic zones, 87% of export, and 1.7 million direct employment. If studies have shown that the multiplier effect is times 4. So this is looking more, if we lose this 1.7 people, we might end up losing about 6 million or more. Okay? Now, we propose that we try, instead of getting more money by raising taxes, let's get more money by coming up with more attractive incentives that will promote more foreign direct investment, that will lead to greater employment, more export, and more tax collection, which will allow us to realize our infrastructure projects, and that will generate more foreign direct investment. So we're looking at a virtuous cycle here. And hopefully, if we follow this formula, we'd like to think now that the train too will be the vehicle that we will use so that we can make the goose lay more eggs. Okay. Thank you very much for your time.